important work still. So it's just everything else is, my team members were actually public librarians, so they have a whole bunch of other issues that are different from ours.
Yes.
And, but as we know, it's all the underlying same issues. It's just how they're handling it differently. So
they paired you with public librarians. I thought they typically like grouped you guys like according to type of library.
It's really it was weird. I'm the only school librarian in the group, so
Wow.
yeah. And there was a school librarian, the New York Public Library, one of them, they were in a school group. I'm like, do we want to switch? But I met him, and he's out of Queens, so I just I said we would meet up. And then all of this happens, of course, so, I figured, well, this will be good for me to bridge the voice, like what's going on there, and then connect us with it also. So there's still work needs to be done. And, with us being in school, after next month, then I hope we can get more back into it. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Adjusting with everything.
Yeah.
We go with the flow.
We do, right? No choice.
No choice. That's it.
So well, since it's 3:30, I do want to get it started because Joyce can only stay until 4. And Beth, Raph, you're okay with manning the chat, right?
I'm in there, yes.
Awesome. Okay. And let me see. Okay. So the link for the slideshow is at the bottom there. Everybody has access to it, so feel free to add to the slides. There are a lot of blank slides at the end. We can add even more. Anything comes to mind. PD certificates and chat notes are going to be shared via email, so make sure that you introduce yourself in the chat and put your email address there. And I just want to thank everybody who's joining us today for our middle school swap meet. Back in April, our PD chair, Donna Swift, and our member at large, Beth Raff, ran a great swap meet. Over 60 people attended. We had to stop it. It was over an hour long, and it was obvious there was a need for us to have this connection. So we are doing the different levels this week. So I'm going to have Joyce start, and then we'll kind of go back to the other slides that are there.
Okay, I'm going to share screen just so I can click around, if that's okay with you.
Oh, sure.
Okay. But I think you have to give me permission.
Okay.
I promise I'll give it back.
Let me just go back.
It's there. I'm seeing yours, Joyce.
No, that's not mine. That's still Beth.
Oh.
Yeah, let me just.
But thanks, Lee.
Never-ending search is you.
I know. But I made my hair a little better there.
And is everybody having so much fun making the Bitmoji scenes?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I know we have a slide added. Let me just see if how about now? What do you
Can I
think?
make you a co-host?
I don't know if that's
Oh, yeah,
Beth's.
I think you have to enable sharing as well.
Okay, let me see.
Or if you know what you have to do? You have to stop sharing so I can share.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So let me just admit everybody who's still trying to get in.
There are so many Zoom intricacies that I've learned recently. I'm really a queen of Zoom now.
All right, so I am. Yeah, I'm getting Zoom fatigue.
Oh no, it's still that it's disabled. I guess.
Really? I stopped sharing. Oh, let me say. Oh, wait. Multiple participant. Let me do. All right. Does it work now, Joyce, or no? I'm enabling multiple participants.
That's good. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of fill you in on some of the things that I've been thinking about and some of the things we've been working on in little subcommittees for NJASL. And I really have to apologize to Beth Raff and Donna because we shared a little bit about this yesterday with the elementary group. So forgive me. And if there's anyone else here who was there. We were talking a little bit, and I can't remember who it was. It was Maria, I think, who was talking about Bitmoji scenes. And it occurred to me, and I included on this slide, which you can click on later. I don't want to go into present because I think I might just be clicking around. But it occurred to me that we could go a step further than the one slide that represented the scene. So if you look at this, actually, this one isn't hyperlinked, but this is, I'll just make it larger for now. This is an example, and in the blog post that I'm sharing there, you'll see lots of examples of both teachers and classroom teachers and librarians who've created Bitmoji scenes. So basically what you do is you take a Google slide deck, you create one slide, you find a background. In this case, there is a really lovely background that has a floor and a wall, but there are many other things. And then you can add elements from basically a CC0 images and then start putting links together. So in this case, my daughter is creating an art gallery for her elementary school students, and she has upper ed and lower ed. And she links to these Padlet galleries, and she has her instruction, and then she has her weekly lessons. So that's one level of stuff. But it occurred to me that if you don't have LibGuides or you don't have a Google site website, it'd be very easy to put together an entire website using Google Slides and a Bitmoji, and thinking about that one Google slide as a hyperdoc. So if you imagine the hyperdoc, if you imagine this one Google slide, and I'm going to take you there to this one slide. If you imagine the one slide as an index, and so you link to other slide decks as second level indexes. So this is your homepage for your website, right? And your collections might be another one, a slide like this with a big shelf like you saw in Emily's. And the collections could be for ELA, for science, and then each one of those led to something else. It doesn't have to be a Google slide, but each one of them may have led to a Pearl Trees curation or a Wakelet or another hyperdoc. But you start building a network of these things, and after a while, you have a virtual library. And so, and I put all these things, so basically what you would do if you wanted to use this, but there are many, many other prototypes out there, and you can create from scratch. But if this is helpful, just go to File, you make a copy of the slide deck, and then basically, if you don't have projects and subject guides, take that out, put something else in. If you want to link to your Destiny catalog or your Alexandria catalog or whatever else you have, link to that. Put your summer reading list here, or take this complete hat out of the way, get rid of it. Get rid of the chair that I have here, and if you have a beanbag, put that chair in there. Find a sitting Bitmoji or a standing Bitmoji and make a substitute. So this is just like starter dough for what I intended was a more complicated thing than a Bitmoji scene, something that had multiple levels or a parent-child kind of thing. So I shared a little bit about that, but the blog post has many examples, so you may want to dig into that. Another thing that Beth Raff inspired in yesterday's meeting, and some of you who've been my students will remember how I insisted that writing an annual report was important. And Beth shared a story where last year she created an annual report for her library. And Beth, maybe you want to just say something about that.
I'm a K-5 librarian in Parsippany, and it was my first year in the library. And I decided to do the annual report. I made it as a picto chart, one page. I got some information about circulation from Alexandria, and then I just added in little graphics about, you know, Battle of the Books and things I had done, shared it with my principal. She was blown away, and she shared it with the superintendent. And when the superintendent saw it, she said, well, you have to put that on the website. And so it was just an amazing turn of events, and it really didn't take me that long to do.
No, so you probably have notes, you have lesson plans already. All this stuff is guided around. You have photographs in your phone already. So what it occurred to me when Beth set me on one of my like crazy dream nightmare things. And so I started thinking about this, and I started thinking, yes, it's important to write a report, but right now it's critical. Nobody will know what you did between March and June if you don't organize it. and you have lots and lots of evidence that could drip away like a leaky faucet, or you could actually share it. And if the budget, if school boards are making critical budget decisions between now and July 1st, this is you will be the only professional who will be sharing the report. And I wrote, so there's the, how are we, this will demonstrate things like how are you getting return on investment on your digital resources? You could highlight the curations that you're already doing. What was your role in professional development? What activities did you use to build the reading culture from a distance? What was the feedback you received from stakeholders? Did a parent write you an email that you might be able to share? You might be the only narrative that is the record of what happened to your school during this pandemic. How were you working on the social and emotional health of your community, formally or informally? How did you identify and address issues of equity? How did you use your social media presence to communicate and build community? So I just, these are the things, and I suggested some platforms and who you might share it with. But even more importantly, if we do reports, and I know this is like so hard right now because you have so many stressors on you right now already. But as Beth said, this could be a one-page thing or two-page thing filled with links, and it could take the form of an infographic or poster. It could be an Adobe Spark page. It could be a some more. It could be something you're already really familiar with using, but you may be the only person who's doing this. And if you share it with the PTO, the school board, use national and local hashtags, and if you tag it, hashtag school library reports, then we will have an archive of school library reports that could be nationally collected as evidence. And I'd love to do a blog post after this highlighting that work. So if you do one, let me know and I'll highlight it. But I thought Beth set me thinking on this about how important it was. The nightmare I had before that one was a little different. And what it had to do with all the great stuff we were doing. So Steve posted about the library is open document. And that has to do with the joint task force and our work to share the digital resources that are already available. But it occurred to me, and there was the poster that we had came out last week, which I argue about. I'm not certain that kids don't love digital books and print books are what they love the most. I don't know about that. Felt like in any case, it occurred to me that the stuff was coming out. It was being sent to a few people and people were saying, oh, okay, that's a poster. But what we weren't doing was sharing it with perhaps the stakeholders that most needed to see the stuff that we were creating. And because I work with two state organizations, I'm realizing that we're doing a lot of the same things over and over again in different states. So I thought it might be a good idea to create a social media campaign. And this was part of the task force. And we formed a sub-task force. And so Tracina and Sky and Eva and now Beth and I are working on creating these little cards. And the cards are designed, this is a very simple idea. What we want to do is create cards. So I saw below my slides a whole bunch of other really great ideas. Some of you are having, and I'll show you some examples from the elementary program. If we use the hashtag NJLIBS and New Jersey Libs, still serving. So we were struggling, and Steve remembers this, we were struggling with the notion of the library is open because public libraries were feeling that there was a problem misleading people into believing the actual physical doors were open. But I think what we really mean is that we are still serving our communities. And so if we use the beginning phrase, New Jersey librarians, still serving ... somebody in the elementary group was talking about their bedtime story hour that they were hosting, and I thought that was a beautiful idea. So if you use this card, which would brand a campaign, and then in a tweet or your Instagram post, you could put, or you in the card itself, you can put a link, and you could push people to anything that you want to share relating to that event. Then we've also got a hashtag leading to what we did during the pandemic. And we've got a way for you to, beyond a tweet, push something out with a visual representation, and also the text above it in the tweet or the Instagram post or the Facebook post would lead people to the various different links, and it would push the social media campaign together. So what we are doing is we're creating a slide. This is so simple, it's just one slide. So just like the prototype virtual library, you would copy the slide deck. You take, there would be a blank slide, none of this stuff would be in the center. And you'd put your own stuff in there. And then you go ahead and you do your tweet or your Facebook post or whatever the other thing you were doing. So what the other examples that came up yesterday was somebody was doing book battles. And I don't know what you might link to, but in different cases, you'd have different things to link to. But what I did not share yet, what I didn't share yet was that Mary Moyer and Jill gave us a link of the handles and the hashtags of the people we need to get. So if occasionally we put the governor on there, or people from the Board of Education on there, or a particular superintendent that we know, then it moves, it's people check their own feeds every day to see who's talking about them. So then we strategically let the people who are in power know what we're doing. And using a hashtag is cheap, right? There's no cost for it. So we were thinking, so we're hoping that by Friday, my daughter keeps arguing with me about this font not working. So I'm working on choosing a better font. And Beth said she'd give me some design advice because I know where my limits go. I have no design chops. So, but I wanted to let you know this is coming. And how do you guys feel about using a social media campaign?
I think that's awesome. The bedtime stories, some of the feedback I'm hearing from teachers is not having students start so early in the morning. They're kind of coming on like 10:30, 11 o'clock or so. So I thought of, we just went to WebEx. We couldn't do Zoom this week. So I started that I have an open breakfast and books, so that maybe those students who are more interested and eager and up early, I could have a drop-in time and then do my thing with them. So it's not just bedtime stories, but if I could make a suggestion about, breakfast time, getting those early risers.
Maria, this is here. You're making a copy of this.
Yeah.
Put your message there. So yeah, do yours. And you have a following that would be so fabulous. So what we want to do is get great critical mass. But so you're doing morning at night?
No, well, at nighttime, my population, they're working still. So it seems that students, trying to get them up early is really the motivator. So I thought maybe I would, target those students. So my thing was breakfast and books. So
I love it. I love it. That would be great. And so what you might do, I don't know if you're keeping a video archive of these things, but what you might do if there was a video archive, you could link to one of your stories.
Right.
Or with permission, a screenshot of, well, if there are no children there in the image. So, and then there's somebody else, I forget who it was, and Beth, you might be able to remind me, or Donna, there was somebody who's doing a daily TV show featuring the kids broadcasting. And how wonderful is that? So again, think of that leaky faucet and all of the great stuff that's happening that people don't know about beyond your particular school, perhaps. Karen's here too. This is so cool. Anyway, okay. So, and the other thing is I just wanted to share that people were looking yesterday for sources of free books, and I know everybody's curating everything. So this just happens to be mine. And so what I started doing was curating everything I found, which is overwhelming. But this is the publisher's directory from SLJ, which publishers are giving permission for their read alouds to be on. So some of these lead to bigger things. This is a list of books on COVID that includes the New York City really extensive list of picture books and stories for kids on COVID-19. And the rest are, this is an interesting, I have to leave in a minute, but this morning I had an emergency situation with a National History Day project. And I know the National Emergency Library is controversial, but it saved a life this morning. So I just want to show you, this is because it doesn't have the publisher's permissions that everybody's been saying. But what I do want to say is that the student needed work, needed to find out data on how African Americans were working in the early decades of the 20th century. It was Dr. Boyer and myself knew exactly which books they were, and they happened to be in these reference books that were on her shelves at Kutztown. I think it was called The History of Work and The Value of a Penny. And so these books are, in any case, that's not it, but let me get The Value of a Dollar. It's The Value of a Dollar. And lo and behold, the reference books were here, full text. I bet, you know what? I bet they were borrowed. Okay, The Value of a Dollar. These are amazing reference books, and they were available to that student. But and they're really, really expensive things. And so in any case, the fact that these books are gathered here and Storyline online, and this is for all ages. So I've been using it with librarians who are asking me questions, and but feel free to grab any of these and put your own together. But I know you have.
What did you use to create this?
Well, any of my students know this is Pearl Trees because I killed them.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's free, and it's to add things to it.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I've seen it before. I just haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, and even the stuff I don't put out to the world, this is just how I organize my life because I keep forgetting where everything is. So it keeps the stuff that I need to find organized. Anyway, I wanted to share some of these initiatives that we're doing and to look out for the card that we're going to be pushing out through the subcommittee.
Thank you so much, Dr. Valenza, for all of this amazing information. I cannot wait to create my Bitmoji library. That is adorable. And someone had asked if these slides could be shared. They are in the slideshow that has been, I have a link that I'm gonna.
They're all, the slides themselves are hyperlinked. So all you need to do is click on the slide and it'll take you directly to the site.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I can stick around for about 8 minutes and listen to everybody else.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. All right, so for those of you who maybe joined us a little late, just make sure you're putting your name and your email address in the chat because PD certificates and chat notes are going to be shared via email, and the link for the slideshow is here as well, all right, so let me take a look and see which slide. Okay, so for those of you who attended the swap meet in April, you know that this is very much a dialogue. Jill Mills, our president, worked on her slideshow yesterday for the elementary, the K-5 swap meet. So I basically just copied her slideshow and just modified it for the middle school level. So Beth Raff is monitoring the chat. So if you have anything that you want to jump in with, feel free. And the first slide is kind of like, what are special services and programming that, we're offering to our school communities. It could be book talks or read alouds that we're, screencasting, recording ourselves, posting to social media. Are you a reference center for your students? We, as middle school librarians, we tend to work with a lot of, research projects with our students. Is that still happening? There is a chat line that unlocks student potential, which is NJLA and NJASL Task Force. It's a great page. There's a link to that page on here. We have a chat line that's staffed 4 hours a day by both public and school librarians. Are we connecting with our public librarians? So does anybody want to start off and kind of share what you have been doing in your practice?
Hi, this is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I've been doing a couple of things. So I've been collaborating with our local public library, and we usually do an after-school program once a month for kids after school. We call it Fun in the Library, and we have a bunch of different activities that they can hang out and try. Usually it's crafts and it's games and things. And so we wanted to get kids into a virtual after-school hangout space to see how that would fly in these socially distanced environments. And there was definitely an appetite for it. So instead of doing it once a month, we've moved to doing it twice a month. We usually have some Kahoot games, and then we have some sort of craft or creativity challenges that we have the students complete. And I notice especially kids who are not really good at seeking out their own social opportunities just love being in a space with their friends and kind of being silly, being silly middle school kids. So that was a fun thing that we tried out. We didn't know how the kids would take to it, but that ended up being a lot of fun. But other than that, I find myself curating a lot of resources for teachers, for families, for students, introducing a lot of tech tools to teachers and to students to support classrooms, because they're at the point where they're getting kind of bored with online learning, and people are looking for new tools and new ways of communicating. So I find myself introducing a lot of tech tools to classes, and then putting together research projects when we have access to none of our books on the shelves. All of the books that I would normally pull off the shelves for these projects that I'm collaborating with teachers on for inquiry, we can't get to anymore. And so we're reimagining the projects, both in terms of how we support the kids, what are the resources we use, how much guidance do they need, and how much is too much in a virtual environment.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that, Karen.
Karen, how are you publicizing? Did you say it was joint between you and the public library, the virtual after school programs?
Yes.
How are you publicizing that?
So I talked about it last week. I now serve on the Board of Trustees for the local public library. And so I talked about it last week in the trustee meeting, and they suggested that I get in touch with our local newspaper and publicize that. And I reached out to the principal to get his permission, and he thought it was fine. So I think for our next meeting or so, I'm going to work together with the public librarian and put something together that we can send out. Just so, because I think it's, what the other trustee said was people don't know what the libraries are doing right now. And it's great to sort of put a human face on it.
Super, thanks.
Yeah, love that collaboration. Anybody else want to share what they've been doing?
I'll share if you don't mind.
Megan!
Hi, it's Megan Hartley. I was Beth Thomas's partner in crime for about, I don't know, 10 years or something. I'm now I'm actually in a private school down in North Carolina. So I really feel like the NJASL group is very strong and very active and fantastic. So thanks for letting me join. What I've done is I have first chapter reads every Friday. So I read the first chapter of a book. I know that's simple, but I've gotten kids that would never have joined me before. I also have a puzzle group. So I do, I'm open at lunch, a virtual puzzle, and there's this puzzle tool that I get these like people that have never seen the library before. And so it's a puzzle tool. Actually, I'll post it in the chat so that you guys
Great.
can. So in the kids, you can invite them in and you can make it a certain size. I'm also been asked to be on the COVID group right now in the administration to kind of say, how are we going to open? So, but I've been doing tons of research, LibGuides that Beth Thomas has, I'm sure shared about, and but just being available as backup to our teachers has been invaluable. But I think, I also think that our administrators have come to me a couple times throughout the remote learning as the researcher to find, to go to the CDC site, to reach out to a couple epidemiologists in the area and stuff like that. So maybe, you know, letting them know that that's a skill you have would be good too. I don't know.
That's great, Megan, that they look to you for that information.
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah,
that
I'm
online
totally
puzzle
jealous. I
idea.
feel like
Just like, hi,
all kinds
Megan.
of decisions are being made and they're not asking for our input at all.
It's a different world down here. I'm pleasantly, you know,
Yeah.
I'm very happy with our, but I think, you know, it's been great, but I've also, you know, you gotta, as Beth Raff, you showed, you know, that first year making a big impact with that summary report. You know, they don't know what you're doing unless you toot your own horn. So keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree, Megan. I say we have to be like our own horn section. We really do, because I think naturally a lot of us in the education field, but specifically like in the school library field, we don't want to seem like we're bragging. And we need to get over that, because you're right. No one knows what we're doing unless we're telling them what we're doing.
And had I not done something very comparable to what Beth Raff described as that one-page document at the end of the year, I don't know, you know, I just am not sure if they would have, they knew, but they were blown away. They were blown away.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I always say that I'm going to do like an end of year report, and I'm so bad about it. And I'm definitely going to put something together this year and use that hashtag that Joyce mentioned, because she's right. We can have a whole collection of this and feed off of each other's ideas.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I
Thank
need to
you.
get back into that. I used to do them every year, really extensive reports. And I haven't done it since I lost my para, and because I haven't had time,
Yeah.
but I need to get back into that.
Definitely. Does anybody else want to share what they've been doing, or do you want me to go to the next slide? Pop in. All right, I'll progress to the next slide. All right, so professional development. Obviously, we all take it seriously. That's why we're sitting on a Zoom meeting right now. And are there any resources? I know Day of Dialogue is coming up, School Library Journals, Day of Dialogue. Many of you are probably going to attend that. ALA is digital this year. Are there any other places that you're going for online PD that you have found to be very helpful? Actually, Karen, my new co-librarian, Karen Doherty, you had mentioned that you're watching some great news literacy webinars, right?
Yes. And they are newslit. Any, you know, news, LIT, one word. And I can tell you, they have listed some resources. I don't know if they're up there for everyone, but it's at bit.ly, and then it's /newslit PD resources. But they have lots of resources available regarding news literacy.
Great. Put that link in the chat.
They still have 2 more this month. They were doing one every Thursday. So there is still one tomorrow and next week.
Great. Karen, put that link in the chat.
Sure, I will do that.
Okay. Anybody else have any online PD that they feel was worthwhile?
I just want to mention the COVID. Tomorrow ALA is having a meeting at 3:30. And it's all about libraries and COVID and how to open them. That's the
Oh, good.
purpose of it.
That's important, because we had a department meeting today, and we, you know, the question that came out there, and of course we're like, we don't know what we're doing, and people have different ideas of how to approach it. So that's great. Thank you, Megan.
Also, if Jessica wants to mention,
Jess Gottlieb?
yes, if she
Had to step off, I think, because she's doing another webinar. She's hosting a webinar, I think.
So I'll mention it. It's the consortium, and you can talk about this, Beth. that they're doing a webinar. I think it's titled Summer Reading and the CLC, but for anyone who's interested in potentially participating in the consortium, you can get access to ebooks. You own them after, if you buy in for 1 year, whatever's there, you get to keep, even if you decide not to join again. And I know in my elementary school, we don't have any ebooks currently, and I'm looking to use the $500 from my budget to get into the consortium. And I think it's through Mackin. I think it's next Thursday.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, definitely check it out. For those of you who have been thinking about developing an ebook and audiobook collection, this is, there's so much value to this. I have the middle school collection, and it's $65,000 worth of titles for $750 because we have a little less than 1,000 students. They do it based on your enrollment.
Yes.
There's some really great titles on there. A lot of Alan Gratz, which is very popular among our students. And we've been, really pushing it during this closure. And in looking ahead to next year's orders, we're most likely going to be adding to what we have.
Thank you, Sky. I don't know what, I think it was Karen Doherty needs to put in that newsletter.
Yeah, I just put it in.
Okay, thank you.
I just did. You're welcome.
I didn't catch it.
It might actually be on the Checkology website.
Great.
Beth, can I say something? It's Sky.
Hi, Sky.
Hi. Oh, you know what? Let me put the video on so you guys can how wonderful my hair looks today. I just wanted to add, this is going to be our first year in the consortium. So as soon as I got the email, I signed up for it right away. I was very excited for this. I wanted to do it anyway, but now that ebooks are pretty much all we have for our kids, I really wanted to do it. So I inquired about something interesting. I asked, can I get in on last year's package? And I can. So we're going to get last year's package, and we're going to get that sooner. So I saw it had Refugee by Alan Gratz. Well, that's one of our summer reading titles. So I was like, oh, I hope we can get it in the summer. So whenever the PO goes in on our new fiscal year, which begins July 1st, so probably at some point late July, that'll kick in, and I'll be able to give the kids access. And then we could, I guess, figure out a way to send a note home letting the kids know that they have access to that. I think the ebooks are especially important because we didn't really talk yet about the summer reading today. I was thinking with the summer reading, so many families that normally would just order on Amazon, they've been furloughed, they're in bad financial straits, so they're depending on us more and more. Like right now, I don't know why I did this to myself, but I'm making a spreadsheet for each title. For the count, how many copies the county library has, how many copies the public library has, how many, if any, copies do we have. We're going to have a little cart in the office where families can come pick them up.
Wow.
So I'm really obsessed right now with how we're going to help out families so that the kids can complete the summer reading. And I also just wanted to, in general, mention the thing about that if you need a lot of ebooks cheap, quickly, you can do what I did and get in on last year's package and still have a lot of great fiction titles and new titles. Thanks.
That's a great point. You're right. I remember when I signed up for it, it was our first year this year that we used it. Like you can actually choose from like the last 3 years collections, I think. Like they have a couple you can choose from. And then I was able to enter into a Google form what titles I was interested in having. So we got the current year's collection, and so that wasn't made available until later in the summer. But absolutely, if you can check in on that webinar, do it. Mackin has just been amazing with their support of school librarians, and they're providing a lot of free resources now. So I just all around, I think it's a great company to deal with. Thank you, Sky. What can NJASL provide for you? Is there anything that you guys are looking for that you're not seeing from us that we can help to support your professional development? I guess we're doing a good job. I do know that I think, part of our strategic plan for next year, I think, looking at professional development and shifting more things online is going to be a priority, just because we don't know what the future is going to look like when it comes to, having professional development and, to offer, webinars and to, some of you may know this, we have a YouTube channel now. If you're not aware, search NJASL, we're on there, subscribe, because once we have 100 subscribers, we can have a customized URL. So we've been putting some things up on the YouTube channel, and book talks and some videos that NJEA worked with us on. So definitely check that out. And I envision that will be a place too that we can probably have some PD webinars available. Bring back the tech smackdown. Okay. We can bring back the tech smackdown. I know Joyce would love that. So good idea, Sky, definitely. All right, let me go ahead to the next slide. Okay, let's see. Okay, so a slide that they had yesterday was just personal input and personal experiences. And for me, we are a flexibly scheduled program. So it's not like we, like our elementary counterparts, they have been teaching their lessons that they would teach with the students that, because it's a fixed schedule at the elementary level. So I'm in a very unique situation for middle school. I have a co-librarian. We're very fortunate to have that. Up until maybe like 12, 13 years ago, we also had a full-time secretary, but they maintained the two positions, and we're very fortunate to have that. And Karen will probably, agree, but like for us, it's been like feast or famine. In the beginning, we didn't want to overwhelm our teachers too much because everybody was really, really overwhelmed. So we, curated some LibGuides, but, we were sharing things out, not really hearing back. And so we kind of took a step back and just kind of waited to see if anybody would approach us. And then it seemed like, when they had, like, we have 3 different stages of planning. So stage 1, we didn't get too much, requests for help, but then the second stage we started hearing, and then it seems like everybody at one time kind of needs assistance. And we're just trying to, be as helpful as we can. There's been some research, a lot of book recommendations, doing some screencasts and doing book talks online. And also, going beyond what we typically do. The PTO wants to put together a slideshow that will feature every kid in the 8th grade. It's like 327 kids. And, we're going to be helping with that because that's what we should be doing. We're available to do it, and so we're just doing it. And also something that has been popping to mind is, if we're going to be remote next year, how are we going to be able to ensure that we're covering our curriculum? Because as of now, we're not seeing all of the different classes that we typically would see when we're in school. So, so that's just a concern I have. And, we don't know what things are going to look like in September. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's kind of just, where we're coming from. Let's see. All right, branding ourselves. Super important. You definitely want to have a presence out there and let people know, what your mission is, what you do. Joyce mentioned earlier, tagging stakeholders on social media. There's a poll function, and I want to use it. I've never used it before. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to see what we are using in terms of social media for our little group here. So just bear with me because, as I said, I've never done this before. And if anybody wants to pop in and talk about how they're branding their program or what they're using for social media, feel free. All right.
I use my personal one a lot, but I can't, the only thing I'm allowed to have for my library is a Twitter.
Okay.
Which, of course, the kids aren't on that.
Right.
So I don't reach the kids at all unless you're on Insta or Snapchat. And I don't even reach a whole lot of parents because a lot of parents aren't even on Twitter. But at least the superintendent and at least 2 of the board members are on it. So, I feel like the only people that see it are the people that monitor the other district Twitter feeds. There's hardly anybody on it. So it's almost not worth it, but.
Yeah, for me, I have a personal Twitter and a school Twitter. And I tell people that Twitter is where I get my best PD. I get like, any idea that people are like, that's awesome. I'm like, I got it from Twitter. And also just keeping up with, legislative things and, what's going on in our state, state library. And I do find that if I tag certain members of the DOE, they will like and they will retweet, or ALA has done it on occasion. And we'll probably find a way to share this out. Jill Mills created, and Joyce mentioned this, a spreadsheet of, accounts to tag and people who should be seeing what you're doing and maybe will retweet you and like.
So for your poll, you want us to do just what we use for school, or what we use personally?
Do for school.
For school. Okay.
Yeah, do for school. I should have added like all the above or something like that, but other.
It's okay.
So okay. So it looks like the majority of us are on Twitter. I get the sense that the majority of parents are on Facebook.
Yes.
And I never got into Facebook. So like, it's just not in my wheelhouse. They're on, who's on Snapchat?
I would be if I were allowed.
I should put the Facebook on because I go on that one, Beth.
Yeah. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
I know our high school librarian started a TikTok.
Yeah.
One of our high school librarians, Rebecca Zarabi, and it's very cute.
I would never be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not even allowed to do Instagram. And like, what's Instagram? Instagram is like.
Yeah. In the beginning, our district was like that kind of too. Like we were allowed to do Twitter, things were blocked, but then they had a PR person. And so that PR person started using Instagram and Twitter and all that. So then it kind of became like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, last year I was told by my principals in the summertime that I was posting political things on my school Twitter. And at first I was like, what are you talking? I'm like, really? And I got panicky thinking, because my personal is not private. And, I can be pretty vocal, and so I was thinking, and I asked him, I said, are you sure that they don't mean my personal account? And he said, no, it's your school account. And I'm like, well, can you tell me which post is political? Because I got really scared that I posted to the wrong account because I've done that before.
I'm always afraid I'm going to do that. I never post anything for school without checking 3 times to make sure it's the school account.
Yeah. And
I'm paranoid.
He eventually showed me what was, and this came from central office, he said. And he said it was a post about how school librarians are important. Like something like, and I looked at him and I'm like, would it have been considered political if it was math teachers are, important to the school? And he just kind of shrugged and, didn't say much. But yeah, it was interesting. So yeah, I can see why some people are hesitant to do it. But I don't know. All right, so let me go back.
It's where they are. You have to meet your audience where they are.
Yes.
And you have to demonstrate, you have to model good use. That's what we teach is digital citizenship. And you have to model good use of it. And if policing is not teaching, just telling them not to use it is just stupid. Mm-hmm. Because that is not going to teach them or model for them how they use it. And they all use it.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do. All right. Now, before we get on to the next slide, Beth, how's the chat looking? Is there anything that anybody has mentioned?
There's some comments about Facebook. And Christina and Karen mentioned resisting it. But I've heard the same thing, that there's some really great school librarian groups on Facebook to get ideas off of. And it connects her to other librarians across the country. Mm-hmm. And I know that Book Expo is going on Facebook Live next week, and I'm not on Facebook. And so I have been battling with myself about whether to join or not for that reason.
I know, it's hard. Like I have an account for Facebook, but I never go on. Because I don't want, family members who I know will drive me crazy on Facebook to like find me and expect me to friend them or whatever it is that you do on Facebook. Like my sister will send me things that family members have posted on Facebook. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not on there. But so many things are being offered there. I know Karen, my co-librarians, I think you listen to a lot of concerts like on Facebook Live, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I have certain people I watch every week.
Yeah. So
Beth, can't you make like an account for like like a librarian account. You know what I mean? Like, don't make it a personal account. I mean, 90% of my Facebook use, I'm connecting with librarians, authors, publishers.
Yeah.
Like I've won things. I've won books. I won books. Well, that might have been on Twitter, but I've won books through Facebook too.
Yeah, I probably should create one with my school email account.
I connect with authors all the time.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Nice.
Yeah,
I use it professionally mostly.
Yeah.
There's some personal stuff on there, but most of it's professional. And you can hide anybody that you don't want to see their feeds, or that you don't like, anybody that you don't want to see on your feed, you can hide it.
And they don't know that?
Right.
I don't think
Also,
so.
to keep things private,
Yeah,
you know.
true.
Yeah.
I see, someone said you can watch Facebook Live without an account. I don't know whether that's true or not.
Me either. I
I
don't
think
know
it depends
either.
on whether they make it public or not.
Okay, yeah, so I'd have to
Oh, that's a
inquire
good point.
from Book Expo. That is
Yeah,
why
they
I
want you to like their page first
Right.
or
Yes.
something.
Right. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think
Yes.
that's it. What my question, Beth Thomas, is going for the summer, how are you going to keep in touch with your students? Like, I have elementary students, so it's almost impossible for me to keep connected with them.
I know. It's a good question because, you know, in a typical year, are we really keeping in touch with our students over the summer? You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of off the clock. You know what I mean?
I used to open every 2 weeks for 2 hours in the summer. I didn't get a lot of students, but
Was this at Jefferson?
yes, at Jefferson, when I was at Jefferson Elementary School.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, we kind of probably have to, you know, rethink communicating with our students. For those of us who can, like, you know, Beth, you're right, when they're that young, it's a little bit more, you know, challenging. But I was thinking about that earlier when I saw this question. I was like, you know, what will we be doing? You know, posting to social media, like, you know, if the kids
Right.
follow you. But I emailed our public librarian today to ask, you know, what her plans were for the summer reading program, and if there's any way we can collaborate with her or, you know, support her. Does anybody else, you know, typically stay in touch with their students, you know, throughout the whole year, like over the summer? Any like ways that you know, work with them? Or
So I just met with our 6th grade teachers, and we put together a plan because we felt it was important to connect with kids, and especially since we don't know what chances we're going to have to connect face-to-face when we get back to school in the fall. We wanted to start building those relationships over the summer. And so we're putting together, instead of the summer reading assignment that they normally get over the summer, we're going to sponsor a summer reading challenge where different badges will be sponsored by the different teachers. And if it's, you know, listen to an audiobook or read a dystopian novel, we'll have a badge that has a teacher's face or Bitmoji associated with it that the kids can earn through these opportunities. So we don't need to communicate with them in real time over the summer, but the choices that they're making over the summer will then connect them with certain individuals in the building when we get back to school in the fall. And whether those are face-to-face connections or virtual connections, we figured that strengthening relationships in this time when we were distant would be really important.
I love that idea. And,
What
do you have
platform are you using to give the badges?
I think right now I'm just going to have a Google form where they fill it out. And so far, I've been looking into badging platforms and I haven't found anything that I love yet. So we're just creating them on Google Drawings using our Bitmoji, and we just email them to the kids, or, you know, if we can meet face to face, maybe we'll print some out and actually hand them to kids. Yeah, that we don't have a digital badge hosting platform yet. I've talked to a couple people and I haven't found anything where I really want to 100% buy in yet. That's still a question that I'm working on. And I don't want to try out 2 or 3 different platforms. I know no one in my building has the patience for that.
I've heard of people using Google Drawings for creating badges.
Yeah, no, I did that. I tried it out with an Italian class last week or the week before, and we created some badges in drawings, and I created some badges in Canva. and then we emailed them to the kids who earned the badges. And right now I'm just trying to create an appetite for it and to help teachers see how badges can be used to connect people.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
I heard there was some sort of, I think there's like an add-on or something with Google Forms or Google Classroom where it'll automatically give a badge. Like if they do, you know, I can't remember what it was. I'll have to see if I can find it, but.
I remember seeing Alice Keeler present at NJASL, and she did something with badges, and it was definitely within the Google realm. Like, I think she might have even had it on like a spreadsheet. She loves spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So I think she might have, and maybe she used Draw to like create them and then put them in a spreadsheet, but yeah. I love that idea. I think that's real. I love the Bitmoji idea that the kids can earn. That's awesome.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The Parsippany Public Library is looking at using a platform called Read Squared, I believe. And they were going to make a video for us, letting us know, you know, to share with the students about what the summer reading program would be like. I don't have a lot of details. I looked at the platform a little bit, and it looks like a way for the kids to track their reading and for the library to share links to different things. But I haven't, and I know that the public librarian asked me if I'd be interested in like doing a read aloud that they could, you know, use through their Facebook page or whatever as a way to link our elementary schools summer reading program.
That's great. And, you know, the other questions, I don't know if we really know the answers to these questions. You know, what is next school year going to look like? What are our libraries going to look like? You know, I've heard things like the kids are all going to be like staying in one room the whole day, and that, you know, teachers are going to go in and out of those rooms to teach their lessons. You know, I keep thinking about, you know, we have like a small like mobile maker space, you know, which is so tactile. I mean, you know, how you're going to wipe down those objects every time a kid goes to use them. You know, it's just, I'm kind of curious to see, you know, what the recommendations are going to be, you know, from the federal level to our, you know, governor to the DOE. But I think, you know, it'll be important for like us to, you know, meet again once school does begin to kind of, you know, talk about our answers to these questions and how, you know, we're, you know, dealing with those types of things. Does anybody, like, we have 4 minutes left. I just want to see, I forget how many slides are in the slideshow. Okay, so we're getting towards the end anyway. All right, so there are slides at the end for you to put your own information. Joyce had her, like, there are a couple of slides from yesterday from the elementary that I kept on here because I thought that you might find them helpful even as a middle school librarian, like library choice boards, just to give kids choice of different activities. Someone did an end of year pair deck. We had a person reach out via the Google form asking about ebooks, and, you know, Joyce had her Pearl Trees slide earlier that has a really comprehensive list of ebooks and audiobooks that are being offered. I curated a LibGuide for Karen and I for our school community, but then we started adding the free resources that we don't subscribe to but that were being offered, so they're all there on that LibGuide if anybody wants to take a look at that. But you know, this, please, oh good, we got somebody who added something to a slide. This must be Steve, right? I wonder if Steve's still here. So yes, please continue to add to the slideshow. I kind of just see it as being something that's going to evolve over time, and you know, hopefully if we do this again, you're able to join us, because I really do think that you know, the best ideas come from, you know, dialogue like this. Is there anything anybody wanted to share before we close out for today?
Another PD is the SLJ Teen Live is in August 5th. If anybody's looking for something to do over the summer.
That's always an awesome one. I've done that many years.
Is it free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's always been virtual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Beth, Thomas, there's also, and Lee, I think you use this. Is it called Audio Sync? What are the 2 free books per month?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they went with the Sora app this year. So it's a little bit like the kids have to download the Sora app, which is great. It's the school version of Libby, but it only works in that app.
And is that the one that's, you have to be 14 or older to use it?
Possibly.
Yeah.
They
so
are-
Well, I mean, audio sync is supposedly for YA anyway, but
Yeah.
and the book choices are definitely YA.
Yeah.
Definitely pretty mature with those,
Yeah.
especially from last year. The year before that, they weren't quite as edgy as last year.
Yeah.
This year they specifically titled it Sync for Teens. They changed the name, so they're really pushing it toward the older audience.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely
They
for
also,
older kids.
because it's Sora, it used to be that you would download the actual file and you had that book for forever, and now it's just up for a week. So you've got a week to get in
Yeah,
and
you
get out.
can't, you have to finish it within a week.
No, I took the audio sync webinar that was earlier, and they said it's downloaded for like 66,000 days. So once you download,
Oh,
it's there forever. I mean, I
66,000.
You have to remember to download it every 2, but I'm in a 7 to 8 school, and I listened to Monday's Not Coming, which was on the first week, and I think that was a little edgy for a lot of my 7th and 8th graders.
yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like Monday's not, there's some good valuable stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff that I don't know my 7th graders could handle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is.
And the 57 bus is the other one that was in the first week. So
Okay. Yeah. Heavy stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, I want
so-
to be mindful of everybody's time. It is 4:30. I want to thank Beth Raff for monitoring the chat for me. Thank you so much. Donna Swift, who did pop back on. She had to leave for another Zoom, then came back on for organizing the 3 swap meets this week. And I know you're going to be organizing some other great PD, it's coming soon. Just be aware that NJASL is going to be putting a COVID-19 page on our website to provide resources for school librarians in New Jersey, whether it's, a job opening link or, PD, legislative updates, COVID-19 information. We're going to be building that page. I think it will be announced very soon. We wanted to get it up as soon as possible, but it will be, added to as we get more information from all the different stakeholders that we're working with. But thank you everybody for joining us today.
Beth,
and
can I interject
Sure.
before you dismiss everybody? These slides and all of the Wakelet from the first set and all of this stuff is going to eventually be on the PD page on the new NJASL website. So if you didn't catch it this time, we are going to be sharing the chat messages, all of those resources. There's so much stuff. It's like drinking from a fire hose, but it's going to be available. We're going to archive it all on the resources or the professional development page. So I did see a question in the chat come up. Yes, you'll be able to see yesterday's as well.
Great.
And I want to thank Beth very much for leading this for me today, because I did overbook and I had to be in 2 places at one time.
Happy to do it. All right. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, president-elect@njasl.org. And I hope everybody goes and enjoys this beautiful afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye, everybody.
you. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Bye.
Bye.